Hello everyone, my name is Jenny. Welcome to my All About Childcare channel. Today we're going to share some tips for student teachers who are going on placement. 15 things don't do for your teacher placement. Number 1, don't be shy. I can totally understand. First day, going to a brand new childcare or kindergarten, you feel everything's unfamiliar. It must be very nerve-wracking. But please take a deep breath. Just think that everyone is friendly. Children will be so excited to meet you there. So make sure you tell yourself, I'm really confident. And then just be there, and no matter how nervous you are, don't forget to say hello, how are you to children, to your mentor, to other staff, and especially the parents. And it's always nice to bring a self-introduction, a written one, to display for the parents. Some universities do provide templates for their student teachers to write this introduction. Make sure you include a photo with beautiful smile, and talk about who you are, how you're going to do the placement for, and if you can, include some of your hobbies or your favorite football team, and it will definitely, bring you and the families a lot closer. Tip number 2, don't stand around, do nothing. You need to get in there, play with children, have fun with children, and engage with children. That's really important. A lot of mentors, when we talk, they give me feedback. Sometimes they feel, some student teachers, maybe they're not suitable for becoming early childhood teacher, usually because they observe them not doing much with children. So you really need to remember, yes, I understand you are very anxious, you don't know anyone, you don't know what to do, but at least make sure you get down there, play with children, talk with them, because this is the minimum requirement for you to become an early childhood teacher. So if you don't do much interaction with children, that's usually a really bad red flag for someone who's about to become early childhood teacher. Tip number 3, don't just interact with one child or a small group of children. I know finally you start some conversation with some children and you maybe start to feel really comfortable and you always interact with them, or these children feel attached with you and then they just want to play with you all the time. But in your mentor's eyes, they think, you're only comfortable enough to interact with certain child but not other children. It's still not really a good sign. So make sure you go here and there, interact with different children. And I usually take notice of these quiet children, those children who always play on their own a lot more. I want to make sure that I go and engage with these quiet children as well. Tip number 4, don't just keep your head down when you interact with one child or a small group of children. Make sure time to time you are scanned around all the children, knowing where all the children are, what they've been up to. This is a very efficient way of supervising children and making sure all the children are safe. So focusing on one child and not being able to see the whole big picture, this is a common mistake for lots of student teachers and even the teachers who are already working. Tip number 5, don't share food with children. Don't give children any food like lollies or candy. So people from different cultural background other than like Australia, some of the cultures, they encourage their children to share food with their friends. So when they teach in Australia, they think it's okay to give food to children. However, in Australia, there are many children with severe food allergies. So please make sure that you don't share food with children, okay? Especially not bribing them with any sort of like chocolate or candy, because a lot of parents, they don't want their children to eat this sweet food. So please don't make this mistake. So when you do your placement, it's really important to find out who are allergic to what. And also some childcare centers maybe ban certain food, for example, nuts or egg. So if that's their practice, please make sure you follow that through. Don't bring any nuts or eggs to that childcare center, and don't consume that in your lunch break. Make sure you always wash your hands. Tip number 6, don't overthink. Don't worry about whether your mentor teachers or other staff, whether they like you or not. I have supported many student teachers before. Some of them, they can tend to get really worried because they feel like their mentor teacher doesn't like them because the way they talk to them, or the tone, or the facial expression. So remember one thing, you're not there to make friends. You're not there to try to get someone to like you. So just be professional. Don't overthink whether other people like you or not. If they are professional, they assess your placement based on your teaching practices, your communication, not based on your personality or anything. So I understand sometimes we might have mentors who might going through some hard time or appear to be really strict, but just give yourself positive talk and believe all the mentor teachers are very professional. So just make sure you do your things right and don't worry about whether they like you as a person or not, because you're only there for maximum a month. Tip number 7, don't wait for your mentor to tell you what to do. Please show initiatives. So always ask them, is there anything you want me to do? Can I help you with anything? Do you want me to be indoor or outdoor if they run an indoor-outdoor program? Showing initiatives always leave a good impression for your mentor. Tip number 8, don't reject any reasonable request from your mentor. For example, if your mentor say we're going to have a staff meeting tonight, it might be out of the normal business hours, but please don't say no to them. I once made a mistake saying no to my mentor, and then I got feedback at the end on my assessment report that I didn't show enough initiatives. Having staff meeting, that's also part of normal job duties for teachers, so please don't say no to them like me. It's really not professional. Tip number 9. Don't just assume that your mentor is the only one who's going to mark your placement performance. The answer is no, because a lot of times your mentor may be asking other staff for feedback on your performance. So any of the people who directly work with you, directly supervise you, can give feedback to your mentor as well. So please make sure you not only communicate and maintain good relationships with your mentor, but also all other staff in the center. Tip number 10, don't do any learning experiences if you haven't checked with your mentor. So remember, it's your responsibility to communicate with your mentor. Don't wait for your mentor to come to you and say, hey, what are some learning experiences you're going to implement next week? If you have to wait to the point that your mentor has to approach you, then it doesn't show any initiatives to your mentor. So make sure you communicate with your mentor. For example, next week I'm going to X, Y, Z, these learning experiences. Show your mentor the folder with your lesson plans. Your mentor might not have time to check all your lesson plans, then you can summarize it, tell your mentor what are the things you want to do, and make sure your mentor approve them before you implement these learning experiences, because sometimes the learning experiences you plan might overlook some safety factors or maybe against this center's philosophy. For example, some centers may be really promoting open-ended art learning experiences, or we can say process-oriented art, but the learning experience you plan is very structured, or even like coloring activity. Some childcare centers these days, they don't like these structured coloring activities. So if you do these activities with children without checking your mentor, then it might result in a low mark for your placement. Tip number 11, don't argue with your mentor. I'm not saying that your mentor is always right. I'm sure there are times you believe what you say is right, but there's no point to really win an argument, because you might win the argument, but then you lose your placement. You probably fail your placement. Depending on whether your mentor is an open-minded person, myself, I'm okay if the student teacher wants to challenge me. I take it as an opportunity to learn from each other, but not all the mentor teachers are like me as open-minded. So please try to avoid any unpleasant argument. Tip number 12, don't go confront your mentor or center director directly when you observe some practices that you don't agree with or something really concerning you. For example, if you think the teacher-to-child ratio is not right, don't go and confront your mentor or center director directly, especially in front of families, because you are putting them in a really awkward position, and usually you will get a really negative response from them. They might say, as long as the ratio is right under the roof, okay? And then there might be some bad consequence for your placement. So if you have something you're not sure, always check with your lecturers from the university or any placement support staff from the university. Okay? And if you observe something that's related to child safety to that level, yes, we have legal responsibility to make a report to child protection, but then again, I want you to check with your lecturers in the university, because there are something you might just need some support with. Tip number 13, don't swap personal contact with families while you're doing your placement, because it's really not professional, and usually you will regret, because I had a student teacher who swapped contact with families, and their families just keep messaging her and say, please take more photos of my child. I want to know how my child is going in the center. So that's extremely unprofessional and also against many centers' policy and philosophy to swap the personal contact. If you just feel like, oh, I just have to be friends with with this parent, then wait after you finish your placement. There's no more conflicts of interest, on the day you finish, then it's okay to do so. But again, you need to check the center policy and your university guidelines whether it's okay for you to do so. Tip number 14, don't make any inappropriate comments on your mentor, other staff, or anything about childcare center in front of the families. I know sometimes you might get along really well with some of the families, especially those from the similar cultural background or speaking the same language as you. Sometimes they might ask you questions on certain things about childcare center. Yes, there might be things you don't agree with, you think that they can improve, but please don't say that to the families. Remember, you are a student teacher. If you can't fix the problem and you only stay there for, like, say, a few weeks, then what you say or do might potentially break the trust or the relationships between the families and the staff there. So please don't make this mistake. And also, I understand sometimes the parents want to speak with you in the same language that you guys speak. So your mentor or other staff might wonder what you guys are talking about. Put yourself in their shoes. If you are in their position, of course you want to know what the student teacher and the families are talking about. So it's okay that you want to speak the language in your own language, but after the conversation, after the families are gone, it's always polite for you to just briefly tell your mentor and other staff what the conversation is about. Especially if it's related to the child's learning and the development, it's very important for you to pass that information to your mentor. They will really appreciate it. Tip number 15, don't forget to say thank you to your mentor, center director, and any other staff who have supported you through the placement. It's always nice to bring a thank you card or a little bit of dessert to show how grateful you are. And remember, you need to ask your mentor and the center director to be your reference for future job hunting. So it's really important for you to remember to say thank you and ask for their contact. That's all. These are all the tips I want to share with you. I've been there, done that as a student teacher, especially coming from different cultural background. I know how hard it is to try to be confident in an unfamiliar environment. But if you want to be a teacher, you gotta get yourself in there. Teaching is all about building relationships with children, families, and staff. So just be yourself and be confident. You can definitely do this right. My name is Jenny, same as you. I came to Australia as an international student studying early childhood education, and I know exactly what you're going through. I understand your stress. I know all the challenges you are facing or will face one day, so I'm able to help you. And now after 10 years, I become a lecturer in the university, teaching students studying bachelor or postgraduate diploma in early childhood education. I'm also a trainer, also supporting student placement, also working as a center director, teacher. If I can achieve all these things, you can achieve them as well. So if you want to go further in early childhood industry, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Bye bye!